Relax it, we'll be better next time I try. And even if I still can't do it, yeah, you know that I'm gonna stick to it. Yes, it's all about going through it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Whoopsie, whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo! Whoopsies, whoopsie, whoopsie, whoopsies.
I'm a little embarrassed when I look at my drawing compared to this. I'm just not getting anywhere with this. It makes me wanna hide. Aw, don't be embarrassed. Don't hide.
You should have seen mine the first time I tried. It took a lot of whoopsies to look this way.
No one's perfect on their first day. Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay.
It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsie, 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 whoopsies.
Well, what about this? I want to jump rope, but nope, I just can't do it.
Well, not yet. Come on and practice with me. You'll see there's nothing to it.
Whoa! Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo!
It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing over us. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. I know it's hard, we're falling off before it's too late. Wake up, my love, please don't give up on me. It's hard. Wake up.
What is up? What is up, you guys? We are back at it again. Hold on, let me pull up the green screen here. Oh, totally forgot the green screen. There we go. I want to show off my dirty office to y'all. All right, here we are. Another day of Rootkit, 100 days of Rootkit. All right, not just Rootkit. All right. I hope y'all are excited for our journey. We're gonna continue talking about CSS and how to be a great designer. Okay, the beginning steps for it, right? We ain't gonna teach you how to be a great designer, right? Because you have to have a great designer, and I don't see any around here, all right? But we'll continue forth with the basics here. And just so you guys know, all of those streams or shorts or whatever you watch about like people, devs, whatever else that are like living the high life, you know, their daily routine. Oh God, it's such a lie. All right, if you saw my office, that's the daily routine. We're talking about mess central. We look almost like we're hoarders up in here. All right, that's how you know you're on the grind. All right. Unless you have OCD, then maybe your office looks like that. Got my hoodie and stickers today. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome, Kamal. I sent a large because I thought all we had was one large and a couple extra larges and one extra large left. But after I sent it, I found the other box with some mediums and smalls and stuff, and I was like, oh, hopefully you ain't too forgive me, man. Forgive me. Hey, I don't know. Wash it with some hot water or something. Hopefully it shrinks down a little bit. I'm sorry. What's the return policy? All right. Let's continue on here, you guys. Let's continue on. Oh, we gotta finish our intro. Let me go ahead and grab this. If you don't know, we are Rootkit, a non-profit organization here in the US of A. Don't go to college. Don't go to any other boot camp. Just watch the streams, right? Just watch our streams. We're going to teach you everything you need to know to get our comp sci certs. Also, everything is listed on our GitHub in the roadmap on how to get our comp sci cert. If you get our cert, we can help you get a job. If you're in the US, it's pretty much guaranteed. If you're not in the US, it might take a little bit because we don't have any outside, well, we kind of do if you're in Bangladesh, right? Outside of there, we don't really have too many like one-on-one contacts. We'll still help you, and you'll still get one, all right? Because we're going to help you with a bunch of stuff. Letter of recommendation, resume crafting, blah, 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 etc., etc. You name it, we'll help you do it, all right? We want you to be successful. Why? Because we're burning lots of money. We make no money from this. All right. We're a true nonprofit, unlike all the other ones. All right. We are absolutely burning money. It's not a good way to run a business. Our week 11 giveaway, talking about burning money, has finished. So tomorrow we're going to pull the mystery item and who the winner is. All right. The week 12 giveaway will be up later this afternoon, so you guys can enter into that if you want to win some free merch. All right, win some free merch. If you like what we're doing and you want to help support us in our huge just burn of money in our back of our wallets here, you can. If you click the link in the description of the video, or if you're on Twitch, somewhere below, all right, somewhere in the About Us section. You can donate today. Depending on how much you donate, you can unlock certain rewards like our epic stickers, our collab t-shirt, and our epic sweater, which I got on right now. Look at this thing. And on the back, it says the Rootkit logo. Kamal is going to love how soft it is on the inside, but hey, Kamal, was I lying? This thing is thick. It's like heavy duty, all right? This thing will keep you warm. That's all I gotta say. All donations are matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations. So if you donate, it's like you're donating twice as much. Also, we have pillars like streaming for 24 hours straight, shaving my head, and shaving my beard here live on stream, which no one wants to see, all right, except for my mom. So, and very thick. Yep, that's what I'm saying. All right, super thick. All right, maybe next time we'll go with like, I mean, this, I'm pretty sure the logo is gonna fade away before this thing goes into shambles. Maybe next time we go with with one that's like not as heavy duty, you know, more like Abercrombie Fitch style, where it's like super soft but thin but feels very comfortable and soft. I don't know. It's Nicki Minaj thick, Amber Rose thick. My God. Hey, I ain't lying, all right? You heard it here from Kamal. He just received his, all right? It's thick, all right? It will keep you warm. Let's continue on here with our journey, shall we? So, if you guys are following along so far, we've continued we need a new one here. We've been learning HTML and CSS just to start getting some of the visual aspect down, how you'd go about making a GUI, the steps and aspects for that, the whole concept of the divs and how to go about wireframing your site, the initial design phase. We defined what UI and UX are and why they are important. And hopefully you see right now why we told you early on in the programming phases, you kind of just avoid GUIs, all right? You kind of just avoid GUIs as a dev, all right? Because as you can see, this is its own beast within itself, all right? It's more art than it is actual programming, and it takes a lot of time, right? It takes a lot of time to do something pretty simple, all right? That's why these are usually given to people as a designated role and job that they will do 24/7, so you can focus on what you do best, programming, right? Programming. But it never hurts to know all of this, right? You only become more and more valuable. I wanted to open a new tab. You only become more and more valuable the more you know. So never not learn something, all right? Just know that, start with the things that are going to get you a job first, and then you can tack on new items, all right? I mean, we highly encourage you guys to keep up your love of learning. Now I'm missing something here. Oh, it was paint, right? We don't have paint anymore, so we need to open this, reveal in File Explorer, website, index. There we go, our beautiful, beautiful site. Hopefully you guys played around a little bit after the stream, checked out some new CSS stuff, did some of the challenges, all right, because that will help you with learning these items, right? It will help you with learning these items. Any questions so far that you might have had with the challenger or anything, excuse me, from yesterday? I didn't see anything in the 100 Days of Rootkit chat on the Discord. I'll give you guys a second here to ask any questions before we dive into this. I'm gonna wait another 30 seconds here, see if there are any other questions before we dive into this. Hopefully that's big enough for you guys. If this is hard to see, let me know and I'll zoom in on it a little bit more. All right, I don't see any questions, so let's chug along here, shall we? All right, so we left off with setting our background image here in the cover mode. Again, these modes, where is it? Right here. There's a lot of different settings for the background, right? Lots of different settings for the background. So take a look and mess around with them. That's the only way you can really learn about them, what exists, what doesn't exist, what they do, all right? Because some of these, you kind of explain them, but it still doesn't really make sense unless you visually see it. At least for me, all right? It doesn't really make sense until I really see it. So mess around with it, all right? We've noticed there's been some issues because our background is kind of dark, all right? It's kind of dark, so our text here no longer is really that visible, right? No longer that visible. There are a lot of tools online at various different sites for you to learn about colors and the accessibility of different colors. I don't know if that makes in the sense that, you know, what colors work on top of other colors. Like, should this be white or should this be black? All right. Or do you have like a bunch of different grays that you're using or other various colors? Do they work on the background you're trying to put it on? There are lots of sites that will help you and tell you the readability of them. All right. And I believe some sites, I think Google uses some of those metrics to rank your page based off of how readable it is. Additionally, there are some built-in tools to your browser. So if you go to index, there is this thing called Lighthouse. This thing called Lighthouse is for auditing your page. Essentially, it will score you based off of your SEO, best practices, accessibility, your performance, and if you're a progressive web app or not, which we aren't, so we're just going to uncheck that, and for your mobile performance and your desktop performance. If you try to run this, which this is not going to run, I guess it only wants HTTPS pages, so we'd have to load this up. If you run this, you'll see a bunch of metrics come up. All right, we can go ahead and run it on the rootkit site. All right, so let's go to the rootkit site here, Lighthouse, and analyze. So you'll see that the page will be reloaded a bunch of times, and then you'll be outputted a score. Knock on wood, if this is Google Chrome, made by Google, their browser, and they have a tool here that will score you, most likely you want to do well on it, because most likely this is what Google itself is using to rank you. As you can see, we perform right? We perform across the board, right? It's not bad, it's not amazing, but you know, it can, there's some room for improvement. It's very in-depth, so you can look through here and see what scores you got, where, and you know, how long it took on certain items. So it was almost 4 seconds for the largest colorful paint, which is, I think, the largest image. So it would be like this. I'm pretty sure this ones and zeros in the background here is going to be that largest image. I see questions here. Did I not? Hold on. I'm pretty sure I did. Did I not? Oh my. All right. We don't talk about that. I'm going to post it right now. All right. I'm going to post it right now. We don't talk about that. All right. There you go. It's up there now. It's up there now. How do you get to Lighthouse? I'm on a Mac. Same thing. Right click, inspect. This is for Google Chrome. I don't know if this is built in to the other browsers, or if they have their own version of all this. So if you're on a different browser and you don't see Lighthouse, you can just look at this. There's plugins you can get for your browser also, most likely. So in here, you can see just a bunch of metrics. You can see like the loading. So you can see we have stuff that fades in, so that kind of affects our metrics here. So animation can be really bad for you sometimes. It is really bad for us here. And it looks like this bar is the only thing with animation, so I forgot to disable that. So that's giving us worse scores here. Additionally, you can see opportunities that will tell you how you can potentially make your site better. So response time needs to be better, server images in next gen format. All right, and diagnosis. There's also, I believe it will also tell you background and foreground colors do not have sufficient contrast ratio. So this is the one I was looking for. That is a really weird, look, I'm not saying it's a perfect system, because look at this. It says there's a, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it can help you, right? They are looking at your text color and the background and seeing if the contrast ratio between them is sufficient or not. That is a score they're going to give you, so you gotta be paying attention to those things. There's lots of sites that will help you on it. This is kind of, it's messing up a little bit, right? It's messing up a little bit on our content here, but it is an important metric for you to be tracking. I don't think Safari has it, so it's specific to the type of browser. Yes, correct. It's specific to Chrome. They may have their own version. Also, you can download it, all right? But this is just one of the many tools that are in Chrome. What you guys doing today? We're continuing our journey in HTML and CSS, mostly CSS. All right, so there's lots of resources in regards to how you should go about theming your site. Material IO, which I think it's just .io, is maintained by Google. This is the design framework that they've created and they adhere to. So you can go to this site. They have lots of useful resources on the site for you if you really want to get into design, and you can read all about it. You can read about the rules when it comes to Material IO. They have a get starting page, so you can go through it. Yeah, and you can see they'll tell you literally like all the dimensions of various things. The biggest thing I usually use this for is it's been a while since I've been on the site and they changed some stuff, so hopefully this is it. In styles, I believe, if we click on color, maybe it's not here. They have, is it in color system? They have some tools here somewhere. It's buried, right? It's buried. It always gets moved around, so I can never like re-find it again. But they have some tools here in regards to like if you like one or two colors and you want those to be your main colors of your site, they'll tell you every other color you should use that's really compatible. So that way you have a cohesive looking platform. All right. So again, there are lots of tools, including icons, that are 100% free that you can use. Google supplies all of theirs in Material IO. There's also hero icons that are really popular, and then there's, I think you can get the Apple icons also. There's a bunch of other icons like you can use that are available. You don't need to use them, like I mean hundreds of thousands. If we go to hero icons, heroicon.com, here you go. You can see basically the most icons you've ever seen in your life all on this page. Okay, this isn't, hold on, it's making me look like a fool right now. This is not, there's more than these. All right, there's more than these. Where is it? The other site? Is it this one? Here we go. There's even more than this though. Where's the, okay, I didn't come prepared with these the sites I look at just off the bat, but there are even more icons than this. All right, there's a whole icon pack area. Yeah, I wish it was just coming up right now. All right, it's making me look a little weird. I mean, the whole point is you can get a lot of this stuff for free, right? You can get a lot of this stuff for free. You don't need to make it yourself, which is super cool, super awesome. CSS is fun. I always end up mixing my CSS and HTML together. It's probably frowned upon, but it works better for me that way. If you're trying to do something quick and dirty and get it out the door, sure, why not? You can do it, so why not do it? If you're trying to actually make something that's more well put together, then yeah, you definitely want to do best practices, which we necessarily are not even doing best practices right now because we're doing inline CSS, which will show best practices actually today. All right, we went on side tangents about icons, about design. I didn't bring up the color demo, so I'm going to bring up the color site. It's literally called, so Canva is a good resource for colors and color wheels. So you can see like, I like this color purple here. So it automatically chose another color here for us that's going to be complementary, and you can, do a bunch of different options here, and it will choose colors that work really well for you. And it even tells you exactly like why all this works. There's another one called coolers. No, not coolers. Here we go. Oh, there we go. This one, coolers. So all O's, COOLORS. All right. This site is super awesome also, because it will auto-generate colors for you that work really nicely together. So you can get a palette here generated. All right, and you can go mess around with this site also. All right, because to be honest, the most ugly thing for a lot of beginner people's sites is not really the layout per se, it's the colors. It's usually the colors, they don't really work together. So that's a quick, easy cheat, right? Alrighty, so let's get back to the actual development here, shall we? Any questions on that, or anyone wants any further explanation on any of the items we just showed off here? This might be a bit off topic, but can you show us again how to edit a page? The right click and then click on inspect to make it look like someone tweeted something they didn't. Sure. Let's go to Twitter, the most non-toxic safe place in the world. Oh, great. Joe Rogan did something. Cool. Let's say we have a vendetta against Joe Rogan. We right click on the text we want to edit, and this goes for your site also. These are tools meant for you using them on your site. They just work on every site, all right? So we can find the HTML right here. Thoughts. Instead, we can say, I hate everyone. You suck. There you go. Screen cap it, share it. Ooh. There you go. Disinformation campaign started. All right. The whole point of this is for you using it on your site so you can reference different looks and feels. So if we inspect on God mode here, maybe we don't want the word or verbiage God mode. Maybe we want something that says, we know a thing, right? We can look at it. Does this seem right on our site? Is this too long? Is it too short? Do we want to put it on a new line here? If we do, we can inspect it and then go in here, and we learned about the BR tag. So we can say BR right here, and that did not work because you have to edit it in a different way. What is it? Edit as HTML. And we can put the BR tag here. And so maybe we like it that way. It's a way for you to edit things live on the page. And then when you get it to a nice state that you like, then you can copy over that HTML or CSS over to your code. Right? That's what it's meant for. Excuse me. Wait, you went too fast? Look, you can go back and rewatch what we did. All right? It's just the inspect thing we've been doing the whole time. That's your main editing tool to edit everything. Because remember, these are just text files you downloaded from the servers you connected to. They downloaded to your computer. You actually, like, it's no different than you downloading music, a document, etc. If you look at the network tab and you refresh, these are all of the files I just downloaded to go look at this color site. I feel like it was like 122 requests were made. So potentially 122 things were downloaded to my computer when I visited this site. We can see here, this document, so this HTML document was downloaded to my computer. This logo was downloaded to my computer. This icon was downloaded to my computer. These icons, this stuff was all downloaded. This JavaScript was downloaded. Like, you actually download all of this to your computer. When you download it, you have it. You can mess with it. You can edit it post. So that's all you're doing here is you're just, with inspect, you can edit it post. I don't want that one. You can edit it post. And remember, none of it persists. So once you refresh, it's going to go back to how it was, right? None of it persists. So for our site here, let us continue on. We need to change the color of this. Let's go ahead and just change it to white, right? Change it to white because this is a little hard to read. So our God mode text is going to be the center banner text. Now I'm naming these with somewhat of a convention, right? You can name your classes obviously anything you want because they're just variables, all right? So variables, name them whatever you want. The only difference here is the tags are usually common instead of underscores for spacing between words. We want to make this white. So if you do color is how to change the color of text. it doesn't change the color of anything else. So if we say white and refresh, there we go. Much easier to see, much easier to see. To make it even more easier to see, we could put a border around the text. Also, you can put like a background shadow, which might help a little bit with the contrast, which I think maybe we'll do here. So if we type in shadow, I think it's box shadow is what it's called. Box shadow is a way we can set a background shadow on something. It takes multiple options, just like the table attributes. They're called attributes, right? What are they called here in CSS? Properties, just like the table property. This one is going to take, I think, 3 items. Let's see here. Let's do 5 pixels, 5 pixels, 5 pixels. Because I think one is X, one is Y, and then the other one is how spread out it is. That is weird. And we want, if I do it like this, okay, we want this to be 5 pixels, and we want the color of it to be black for the shadow, because right now it's white. It's weird that it's a line right here. What do we have right here? Center banner text. I'm not quite sure on what's going on, so I'm just going to remove this, but just know that is an option that you can do. So let's refresh and it gets rid of that. Now, for some of you guys that may have wanted to tackle the link stuff, the link stuff isn't as straightforward as you might think. For example, this About Us is going to be the navbar About tab. We can try to set this text also to maybe like, I guess we can set it to white also. So let's go color and say white, refresh, and you'll see that it does not turn white. It does not turn white at all. All right. This will be very frustrating for you if you are just learning. If you're just learning, this can be very, very aggravating. Hyperlinks have their own special items that you need to set, right? You can't just give it a class. You have to do some extra steps here for it. All right. So we're going to talk about, I don't even know what the term is for this. Let's go to our W3 schools change link color on, because I don't know what the technical term is for this underlined. It's not even telling me. That's a CSS link. Is that what? That doesn't seem like. By default, a link appears like this. Unvisited link with underlined visited link. Yeah, but the colon part. Basically, you're accessing kind of a like property or function, I guess you could say per se, of the underlying CSS. So CSS can have actions to them per se. It's a new thing that's a part of CSS3. We're not really going to get into it too much, but CSS is actually a pretty complex language. They have things like functions, as you can see here, URL. They also have other things like if statements and various other logic that you can go experiment with. So if you want to mess with the links, you'll have to make another class with the same name. All right, navbar About tab, and then :A. Is it going to be :A, or do we need to do A? No, it's going to be space A. There we go. Space A, and then color white. This still won't work though, because this is for, oh, it did work. Interesting. So you can do stuff like this. So this is slightly different than when you use the colon, because the colon is accessing the property of it. I'm sorry, you guys, I don't know the technical term here for the CSS. When you use the colon, it's like accessing the current state of the link. The current state of the link is we've visited it before, right? We've visited before. Links by default have 3 different states: unvisited, visited, and active. Active means you clicked on it and you're holding it down, all right? So if we click on this and hold it down, it just stays white, all right? If you notice on other sites, if you click on links, let me find a link here that actually does it. These are just like old buttons. Here we go. This doesn't even do anything. We'll show here in a second, but you can have 3 different states, right? You can have 3 different states. And I think they're just called link, visited, hover, and active. So since we just did A, I guess A now, its default behavior is replacing all of these. If instead we wanted just to replace one of them, we could do the colon and say visited. So this will only affect visited links. So links that we've visited before. Let me make sure my typing, okay, I think I mistyped it. So if we say something like red and look here and refresh, you'll see the link is now red because we have visited this link before. If we change the link location from about us to about with 2 T's and refresh, we've never visited this page before. So you're going to see the color has now changed to blue because that dark blue is the default color of links before you visited them. This is the unvisited default CSS. We saw the visited one earlier. I wonder if I can find that. Thanks, Max, for following us. So okay, this is perfect right here. If I click on it but don't like let go of the mouse, I just click forward, you'll see it goes to this red state. That's because it is now in that active state I was talking about. All right, the active state is another CSS attribute you can add custom styling for. And then there's the visited, which is the purple, which we've seen before. So right here we can just say A if we want to have just one default styling across our link, but we may instead want maybe like a default styling. So all of our links by default will always be white, but afterwards we can overwrite it, because remember your code is going to be read from top down. So we can overwrite some of our totality here, which everything is going to be white. We can overwrite it right here and say that when you hover over the link, which I guess is another thing, it's going to be green. So if we refresh and see here, if I hover over the link now, it turns green. All right. Remember, the order is important. So if we said hover here first, it's going to be overwritten by this one, because this is going to replace everything about A. So if I refresh and look, and of course that doesn't work. So I guess maybe I'm just wrong there. Again, remember, I'm not a front-end pro. There are plenty of videos online for front-end stuff. We're just giving you the basic crash course so we can get through this. All right, I see I've been having issues with Jekyll that I've never had. Guessing an update happened. Now my Jekyll site won't render correctly at all. I'm not familiar with that framework at all. Hello, Max. All right, let us continue here. So regardless, even though my example didn't work too well there, it still is important how you go about ordering this stuff, because replacing will happen. I guess if we just remove the hover, you'll see right here, if we refresh, you'll see the link is now green permanently, because this is replacing what came before it. All right, so there's an example. All right, even though my previous one didn't work. Are you streaming somewhere else too? Yes, we are streaming on YouTube. Or where do you get your questions? You can ask your questions on Twitch or on YouTube or on the Discord in the 100 Days of Rootkit's chat section. All of them work, all of them are valid. And if you're a Patreon or Discord premium member, you can join into the events voice chat, which I'm in right now, and ask questions verbally. It's okay, no one seems to be familiar with Jekyll. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. Let us continue here. So our link now is white, which is a little bit easier to see. We may also not like that it's so close to the top here. So we could add some maybe padding or margin to the top to push our link down. Now this is a other question for styling for you, and this again is going down the whole front end rabbit hole on how you go about doing things most proper. The question is, do you apply padding or margin to move this down on every single individual item? So if we had About Us link, a pricing tab, a I don't know, learn more tab, I don't know. You had a bunch of tabs here. Let's say 5 different tabs. Do you apply that CSS to move it down on every individual one? Or do you apply it on the entire nav bar itself? The nav bar itself is one place, which may be more dry, which may be better programming, all right? But front end isn't really programming in the sense that what we're used to. So a lot of times, more often than not, dry isn't best in front end. Actually, a little bit weird. Again, you gotta get into it and mess with it to really know the pros and cons of doing certain things over others, but it's not always as clear. In this case, it's very simple for us this is going to be better if we just add it to the nav bar, so that way it will affect all of the items inside of it. But again, that is not always the case for everything, because I'm trying to think of a good example. If we had a logo here on the nav bar that was over in that left section, if we had padding on the nav bar itself to move all of our linked items down in like to the center so it looked appropriate, it will mess up the logo, because the logo will be also moved and it may be awkward. Maybe the logo is really big. I don't know really. Like, trust me, like that's actually a pretty good example. If you do it yourself, you'll see. We're just going to continue for now. Maybe I'll show an example of that later on. So it just always depends, and it's always not that straightforward. All right, nav bar here. Nav bar. Let's go ahead and do some padding of. Well, we can also vertically. I think we can also vertically center this guy right here, which is the About Us tab. If we do height 100% and refresh, that didn't really change it much. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm gonna be honest here, because I'm just going to probably mess it up. I don't usually use raw CSS. Usually I'll be using a framework like Bootstrap or Tailwind, which we'll talk about here in a bit. So just to get by for now, we're just going to do padding top and say like 15 pixels, right? There we go. So now the link is moved down a little bit. It looks a little bit nicer. Yeah, our problem been solved. Nice educational content. Nav bar, yeah, that's the top. Navigation bar is what it stands for. That nav bar is the shorthand for it. Yes, HTML can be annoying like that. I agree. That's why it's best just to use a framework, because people that are more autistic than me have fine-tuned it to a beautiful artwork on these libraries. So it's better just to use those as a base, all right? Unless you think you're more autistic than the people that made these libraries, all right? Then go at it. Go at it and use every ounce of your brain power to make the next best thing, all right? Everything can always be improved upon, all right? Justify content, align items. We definitely could do that also. Playing with Nifty or NSM, it can compile with any language into a site. I don't think I'm familiar with those either. But let's finish up this example first, and then we can go on some side tangents for libraries and stuff. All right, so our page here is now looking better because now the accessibility of it, the text on the foreground text with the background colors, it's very, very clear on, you know, where everything is and what it's saying, right? So we have improved. We also have this nice little hover animation here. Maybe we don't want green, maybe we want something else, like, I don't know. You can mess around with it. Remember, there's going to be a hover, a visited, a link, and then a active, right? A active that you can mess with. Use the W3 Schools site. It's very, very useful, right? The last thing we have here to do is our 3 little info boxes here below. So I don't have the paint, but let's go and redraw what it's supposed to look like here at the bottom. We're supposed to have, there we go. Here's the bottom section. And in each one of these bottom sections, we need to have the picture right here and then the text down below. Thanks, Max, for the subscribe. Is that for YouTube? Oh, it was for YouTube. Honestly, that's like the first YouTube subscribe thing that actually came through, which kind of threw me for a loop there. All right. So let's go ahead and draw the rest of this. So this is, again, just redrawing what we had before. What we want to go for the look. Our HTML is solid and is good and ready for this. We just need to apply our CSS. Now, there's something that's gonna start bothering you, all right? Because this code here is great and all, but it's really pushing our HTML down. And this is labeled as an HTML document, but now we're mixing 2 different languages with each other. But more importantly, when I go to the About page, all right, none of this styling is being applied to our About page. So you're telling me I have to copy all of this code and paste it into the About page in order to get the same styling going on there? Sure, you could, but it's better if you just make CSS files. We can make CSS files that only hold CSS code and then have a link in our HTML that will reference the CSS in our CSS files. So let's go about doing that migration here. So it's best to make a folder called CSS, and that's a file. So let's go and make a folder called CSS in our website directory here, and you'll even see it changes to the CSS3 logo, which is really, really nice. In here, we're going to keep all of our CSS, right? In here, we're going to keep all of our CSS. So we're going to make a new file in here, and we're going to call it maybe our homepage or our index.css. So this is going to be for our index page. And you can even see the logo changes for that. Now, I'm sorry, I think I totally forgot to explain why it's called index yesterday or the day before that, and I said I was going to. It's a legacy term because, again, data is very arbitrary. So in programming, when we talked about C, well, mainly C, but Python, legacy kind of is brought over but doesn't really matter. We have a function called main. That main function, if you're in C and various other languages, is what your program is going to look for automatically and try to execute to get your whole application running and going. You must have a function called C. It's a requirement, unless you go around and change a bunch of settings. But by default, it's required. Python, it's not required, but people usually use the word main for their main function to start off their program because it's a legacy term, but it's not required. Here in HTML land, they could have chosen the word main, but instead they chose the word index. So index is your default page, right? Index is your default page, just like main is your default function. Whenever you visit a website like the Rootkits website or the W3 Schools site, you are going to an index page. So if we go to Google right now, google.com, we're actually at google.com/index index dot, I don't know what they use. I don't think it's HTML. I don't think that would work, but you're at their index page. Can I just type index? And no, they use Angular. I'm not familiar with what Angular is going to be using here. But for rootkit, we're using WordPress, so it's going to be PHP. So if we do index.php, you'll see that it takes you directly back to the main page, because that's what the main page is. It's an index page called index.php. PHP is the language it's written in. We're not going to talk about PHP. All right. We're not going to talk about PHP. But index, the whole point of it, index, main page, sites automatically go there by default. All right. Any questions on that before we chug on here? Alrighty. So if you have questions, go ahead. Another thing I was learning is how to compile a website using a .war file method. Website creation can be a pain, period. I agree. Also, .war, again, I'm not that big of a front-end dev. I'm not sure what a WAR is. All I know is what a progressive web app is, so I don't know if that's the format for a progressive web app. But let us continue here. Index, we have the CSS. Let's move it. Let's copy it, delete it, move it to index, and save. Awesome. Now, if we save our index page and refresh, oof, we've lost all of our good styling, and we're back to our crappy looking original HTML only site. How do we link this file here into our HTML? Great question. We can use a special tag here in the head called link. I hope it's called link. I always forget. It's either that, or I forget if this is supposed to be href or source. I guess we'll figure out. Let's try href and say css/index.css. Again, this is a relative path to where that CSS file is. So the relative path from our index file is going inside the CSS folder, and then index.css. If we refresh, we see that doesn't work. So the link one is wrong. So let's go Googling HTML link CSS file. And let's see here. We're going to want link rel href. Okay, we're missing the rel, I guess. Rel equals style sheet. So rel is going to be telling it its relationship, like what file it basically is. So we're telling it it's a style sheet because, again, CSS is cascading style sheet, right? Cascading style sheet. So now if we go to our site here and refresh, you'll see it looks beautiful again, right? It looks absolutely beautiful again because it's now loading that file up when we load this page. And you can see that actually, because remember when I went to the color site and then showed the network tab and refresh and showed us downloading all of those files, that 100 and up to 122 like different files. Now, when you visit our site, you download two files. You're going to download the index page and you're going to download this CSS file. And if we refresh, you'll see in here, oh, and I guess the images you're going to download. We downloaded the index page. We downloaded the CSS page. We downloaded the PNG and this background picture. So this picture and this picture. All right. Those four things we're now downloading. All right. So that's just how sites end up being very large like that. WAR web archive file contains files of web projects, may have servlets, XML, JSP, image, HTML, JS, etc. files. Interesting. I'll have to look into that. All right. So let us continue here. So now that we have everything linked, again, this is up to you organizational wise on how you want to go about this, because it's pretty common for people to have multiple CSS files and multiple files linked to their HTML file. Why? Because again, our About Us do we really want to import all of our code here from, because again, remember, this isn't just importing. This is over the network traffic. That is very slow and very expensive. All right. So you want to make sure you're sending people the smallest amount of data as possible in order to ensure your site loads fast and it's reliable. When we have lots of CSS or lots of HTML that we're sending people, we're potentially harming our loading experience and the entire experience users are having with our application. All right. So that's no bueno. So what some people will do is create something like a global.css file, where this is going to be our global settings, where every page is going to have these settings applied. We have a couple global settings in here, the body and the site defaults. All right, so we may not want to have this included in our index, so that way to get these effects on our other page, our about page, we don't need to send them the entire index.css page. We can just send them the global page. All right, the global page. I'm going to tab this. That tabbed a lot. All right, let me undo there. So now all we have to do in our index here is we can just copy that linking and also download our global.css. And if we refresh, you'll see everything is still good, the same, even though we deleted those lines here in this one and they're moved them over here. Also, another thing to remember, CSS reads from top to bottom and will overwrite things that you assign again. So when you are importing them here, the same thing applies. If you have certain CSS changes in index and global is also changing those same things, global will overwrite what you did in index, and vice versa. If we had this the other way around, if we have certain settings set in global, we can overwrite them in index. So the position of these lines do matter, right? Do matter. So just pay attention to that. All right. Let us continue on, and before we go on break, let's quickly get the base template of this going on, shall we? All right. So there's a bunch of ways you can go about doing this, and we're going to use float. We're going to use float because I think it'll be the easiest for us to crank out. Again, I usually use a library for this, so we're just doing it raw here, and it's kind of scary. All right, let's go ahead and each one of these pillars, we need some pillar CSS. So our index file here, we're going to make a new class called pillar. So this is going to be for the pillar itself, and we're going to float this. We're going to float this to the left, and let's see what happens when we do this. All right, let's take this one step at a time here, because I'm a little rusty on my raw CSS here. We want class, and this is going to be pillar without the period. Refresh. All right, looks like nothing different is really going on here. Let's zoom out a little bit. All right, we can see when we zoom out really far, it looks like something is happening here. Let's go ahead and start by changing the rootkit logo on all of these to be a little bit smaller, right? Because they are a little bit big and overwhelming. So on our image tags, let's go ahead and put in here width, and let's say we want them to be 150 pixels. So let's refresh. Let's see the size. How zoomed in am I? At 100. That might be a little too small. Let's do maybe 250. Let's do 350, and we'll call it good at 350. So let's go ahead and copy this width and put it on each one of these images here. And refresh. There we go. Now, the next thing we want to do is set a width size for our pillars here. So let's go ahead and say the width of our pillars by default are going to be 350 is our image width, so we need to be at least 350 width. So let's do maybe 400 pixels. And refresh. There we go. We're starting to get the paneling kind of going on. I think these ones aren't applied yet. So let's grab our class and add the pillar class to all of these. Save, refresh, there we go. All right, there we go. We're starting to form the look of those items, right? Starting to form the look of those items. Now, what is going on here? What is going on here? Float is very, very epic. Also very, very dangerous, right? Float by default will pretty much make an item its own unique entity and try to push it around to wherever it needs to go instead of it trying to sprawl out and be as wide as possible. Remember that display box I was talking about and how display box goes totally full send, like completely wide? When you use float, it pretty much replaces that display box with a display something else. Where is it? Pillar. So we're pretty much display block doesn't really matter as much. Not quite sure how to explain it too well, but effectively it's going to let these be more of their own unique floaty instances that will float around and bend to our will. Again, it's important to make sure you have your div stuff set up properly, or else this won't work too well for you. Also, if you want to avoid any issues you may run into, you can just use a library, which we'll talk about here in a second. Let's go ahead and finish this up. We want to have all these centered, but also we want these to have maybe some padding because they're all kind of pushed right against the edge right now. So let's go ahead and on our pillar CSS, let's add some padding on the inside of it. Let's say 25 might be too much. Let's do 15 pixels of padding. Refresh, there we go. That's looking a little bit nicer. And we want to center all of them. So let's go here. This centering everything would need to be on the div holding the entire area. So this we're going to say class equals pillar holder, which we haven't made that class yet. So let's go ahead and make some CSS in here called pillar holder. So this again is why it's important to have lots and lots of divs, because then you can do stuff like this, because the pillars themselves aren't going to be centered. The pillars themselves are inside of a box, and that box holding those ones should be centered. All right. So we know each one of these pillars are going to be 400 pixels wide. So 1200 pixels is the total width. So if we say our width here is 1200 pixels, that should work just fine. And then additionally, we want this to be centered, which if we do margin auto, there we go. That will work. I think the padding is interfering with it. So we have padding of 15 on each side. So that's going to be 30 times 3, 90 pixels. So technically this needs to be 1290, but we'll just round up to 1300 in order to make sure everything looks nice. There we go. And we've done it. We've darn done it. Maybe we want some more breathing room on top. So on our pillar holder here, we may add some margin top and have it equal to 25 pixels. Refresh, look at it. Yeah, that'll be fun. So we just speed ran through that, right? We speed ran through that. It's just so we could be done with it. We can go on break here, and then we can talk about it a little bit more, right? We can talk about it a little bit more. You can see here, our site, before we go on break, just one thing I want to say. Look how good it looks compared to when we didn't have any CSS. Let's remove the CSS and let's just reload this here. Before and after. with CSS, after CSS. This is what I mean when I say like HTML is the scaffolding. It's the invisible structure that holds everything together and lets you do more powerful things with CSS. If you don't have your scaffolding down correctly, it's going to be a challenge for you to get to a state like this, right? It's going to be more difficult for you to get to a state like this. The only way you're going to start learning and getting used to how that scaffolding should be laid out is by practicing. So make sure you practice, right? Again, the certification exam is not going to test you on your ability for being able to write in HTML or CSS, right? This is just a extra thing for those of you that are interested in making GUIs for your applications, but also because we're going to be tying this into the APIs that we've developed, all right? And we're going to show how you can hook them up to your front-end site here. All right, so we're going to go on break for 3 to 5 minutes. If you have questions, please ask them in the chat. Just got the Byte badge. Nice. Did you get it from your free trial? Oh, look at that.
No.
Is that you? Yeah, what's up, man? You can chat.
Yeah, so I didn't want to interrupt.
No, you're good. You can interrupt at any time you would like. But we're about to go on break, you guys. So if you have any questions, please ask them. Please ask them. And if you are in the voice chat, you can verbally ask them right after the break. I'm going to keep the editor open because you guys usually want to check this stuff out. I'm going to leave it on the CSS page since that's what we altered the most here. Actually, I can keep these both open side by side. So let me put that there and undo that change here. So that way you guys can kind of catch up. All right, so I'll be back in 3 to 5 minutes and then we will continue our journey. All right, I'll see you guys in 3 to 5 minutes. Alrighty. We are back. Let me check here. Real quick, before we get into the questions, let's just do our welcome back intro. If you guys aren't tracking, all right, welcome back. If you're just joining us right now, hello. Nice to have you join us. If you aren't tracking, we are Rootkit, a nonprofit here based in the US of A. Don't go to college. Don't go to any other boot camp. All right, just attend. You're doing it already. All right, you're already ahead of the competition, and get our cert. All right, our comp sci cert is the best in the industry for a reason. All right, don't waste 4 years of your life. Just learn, get certified, and get a job. It's really, really that simple. What does it cost? Well, are you on YouTube right now? Well, that's how much it costs. All right, your time. All right, absolutely nothing. It's 100% free. Everything is that's going to be on the exam we're teaching here in the 100 Days of Rootkit, and they're all on YouTube. And then also the roadmap, right, which lists every single thing we might test you on, is up on the GitHub for free. All right, the exam itself could cost money. If you're watching us right now live, congratulations, you have a waiver. All right, so it's completely free for you to get certified. Additionally, on top of all this money that we're losing by doing everything for free, we give away free merch. Our week 11 giveaway is over right now. So our week 12 one will be live after the stream. Go join in. How do you enter? Click the green button on it, show that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, following us on Twitch, and various other tasks. Bam, you're entered to win some free merch. We give away free merch every single Sunday. What is it going to be? I don't know. We randomly roll one of the 4 items every Sunday, and we figure out then, and then we randomly roll the winner. What are those 4 items? Great question. If you click in the description of the video, or if you're on Twitch, somewhere down below in the bio area, there is a link over to this site here. You can donate to us. Again, we are a charity, so when you donate, hey, tax deductible, at least here in the US, all right? 100% tax deductible. Avoid your taxes, all right? We encourage some light tax evasion here, all right? Donate today, avoid your taxes. When you donate, you can unlock certain rewards like our epic stickers, collab t-shirt, and our epic sweater, which I got on right now with our little Rootkit logo here, and then the Rootkit logo on the back. Kamal just got his today, and he was telling everyone how thick it is. And let me tell you, this thing is thick. It's heavy duty. My God. All donations are matched 1 for 1 for the first 10,000 donations. Those roll in at the end of every single month. And we have pillars along the way, like streaming for 24 hours straight, shaving my head here live on stream, and the goal that no one wants to see us do, shaving my beard. No one wants to see that except for my mom. So we don't need to get that one. All right, that's where all my knowledge lives. All right. Alrighty, let us continue on with our journey here. What questions do you guys have before we continue on? And again, if you're a Patreon or Discord premium member, you can jump into the events chat at any time I'm in here and ask your questions verbally. And don't worry if you're interrupting me. Just interrupt me and I will answer your questions. Anything you guys have? I am going to look up that war file real quick because I am curious. War file. God, don't tell me you're making a Java stack. Oh, are you doing everything in Java? All right, I might have to ban you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right. I don't see any questions. So if you guys don't have any questions, let us continue on our journey here, shall we? So let's talk about what just happened, because we went like at 300 miles per hour, went over some new things, and didn't really talk about it, didn't really explain it. So let's talk about it right now. So the first thing we did was resize the images because the images were a little bit too big. All right, you can resize images in CSS. In here, we just resize them in the image tag. In most front-end applications, resizing it in the image tag is the preferred method because there's usually some magic goodness they'll do behind the scenes for you for optimization of image loading, which we'll talk about maybe not during the 100 days of rootkit, maybe for a web dev class we do. All right, because again, remember, the slowest way you can communicate is through the wire, right? Through the wire. So you gotta be mindful of what you're sending. If you're sending a large image, like these rootkit logos are insanely large images, right? These are not good images to send people. I'm hoping WordPress, I'm assuming WordPress now isn't like making this logo smaller, because it should. I think it's actually giving people the larger one, which is affecting our load time, which affects those stats that you guys saw. So it all rolls into your stats and how well you want to rank when you're, trying to show up on Google, which is important because that's free money potentially. Because if you're selling something, you need to rank high on Google. If you don't rank high on Google, there's only one alternative you really have in order to make sales. The cheat code of life, all right? Money. You have to pay money to advertise, all right? If you have money, you can pretty much insta-win on a lot of things, all right? So if you have money, you can pay. Don't worry about the SEO stuff and just have your site show up for people, all right? If you don't have money, then you got to follow whatever the gods say, all right? Whatever Google or Bing wants you to do, or DuckDuckGo, you need to play the game, all right? Because if you don't have money, you can't afford not to play the game, right? So just play the game. It's all online for free, laid out really well, right? So don't go for any of those. There's lots of SEO scams, right? That stands for search engine optimization. Stay away from the scams, right? Everything you need to know is free online, and you can usually find it on the W3 School site, all right? Let us continue on here. So we made each one of these pillars into proper pillars by using the float. And let me pull up the index file here. Using this thing called float, which is a special little item that will basically let your div float around freely and be a little bit wild, all right? A little bit wild. And it has some special interactions when you have multiple float items right next to each other, because they will kind of float and stick to each other in a certain way. I'm struggling here on a good explanation of it. Let's see what W3 Schools says for floats. Property specifies whether an element should float to the left, right, or not at all. Element next to floating element will flow around it. To avoid this, use the clear property or clear fix hack. All right, not really that great of a description also. But it allows for things to move around more freely, right? And allows for you to squish things really close to each other. Big section blocked items like we have here, these pillars. The only thing is float can be a little buggy if you don't include width. So since now I don't have width included, it doesn't really work properly, right? It does not work properly. So you must include a hard-coded width in order to really get the experience you want, right? To get the experience you want. Now, this works great because on our desktop here, but if we try to do a mobile view, now you can see the mobile stuff is messed up because we have hard-coded widths here. So you have to do a bunch of extra work in order to get the mobile to work. All right, we'll show why you should use a framework for this so it automatically does a lot of this for you. But by default, you have to do a lot of extra work in order to get mobile friendly compatibility. Padding we added in order to add this little extra spacing so things can breathe a little bit. And then the pillar holder is important, right? The pillar holder is important because there's not really a way to center all of these without having them in a containing item. Sure, you can do some cheating stuff where you add a bunch of padding on one side or padding on this side and kind of move them to the center. But again, like we showed yesterday, when you do that, it's going to look really bad, except for people that are looking at the site on the exact dimension monitor that you have. If you're most likely you have a 1080p monitor, it will only work for people that have 1080p monitors. I don't. I have a 4K monitor, so it will look terrible on mine. A lot of people are buying 1440p monitors. It would not look correct on those monitors either. So it's best to make sure you're using things in the correct HTML structure so they're nicely containerized. And when they are containerized, like how we have them in this pillar holder, use things like margin auto. What does margin auto do? Great question. Margin auto will automatically add margin to both of the sides here in order to ensure this is centered at all times. So if we go to our pillar holder right here, you'll see that margin auto is going to basically be moving all this stuff to the center for us. You can also see we kind of have some weird behavior going on because we still didn't, since we're using floats, we still didn't do everything 100% correctly, so we're getting buggy behavior. What do I mean by that? Well, if you look here and look at that highlighted area, you'll see that it is that orange color. What is that orange color? That's going to be the margin, all right? So all that we see there showing up is margin, that margin 25 pixels that we have on the top. It also, you can see here in the blue section where it tells us how wide our content is and how high it is, it's 13,000 by 0. 13,000 by 0. That means our content has absolutely no height. But that doesn't make any sense. How does it have no height? Our content here obviously has height. Well, again, float adds some weird behavior. So if we were to make something outside of our holder here, so this is outside of the holder, let's just do a p tag here and add some text and save and refresh. Of course there we go. We get some weird behavior here, right? We get some weird behavior. It looked fine when it was smaller here and it's just showing up down below, but when it's bigger, this is a little bit weird of our behavior because this is not inside of a div, it's not being floated, but this text is showing up somewhere where it's not supposed to. All right, this is because the pillar holder here needs some extra conditions added to it. Mostly a height needs to be added to it, and that would probably fix, I think, everything. So usually if you have floated items, you want to make sure it's a known height for those items also. There's a bunch of stipulations. It gets really buggy really quickly. So again, that's why I said floats are epic, but also terrible at times, right? Any questions on that? Just gonna add some height here. How high are these items right now? 271. So let's say 300 pixels. There we go. Now you can see that I've added the height here. We're no longer getting that buggy behavior. The text is now just showing up right here. And if it's smaller, it's still showing up down here. It's not being interfered with. You might say, why is there all this extra space right here? All this extra space is here because I didn't type in 271 pixels, which is what it said it was. So if I do that, it should be a little bit closer. Now we'll get less buggy behavior. And if you see, the pillar holder is now actually contain. You can see that it's actually holding all that info now, because again, floats are buggy. Floats are buggy. Yeah, floats are buggy. That's pretty much the pinnacle of that speech there. Any questions on that? Again, the bugginess kind of goes away if you have the proper HTML structure, which we do. And the proper HTML structure is just add more divs. The more divs you have, the better it's going to be for you overall. All right. Any questions? If there are no questions about any of this, we're going to move on and talk about some libraries next. I feel like I'm forgetting something I'm supposed to bring up. If I am, please someone bring it up. And this isn't on live chat, so hopefully I didn't miss anything on the YouTube side of stuff. I don't know why it just always goes to top chat, which sometimes hides some of your guys' messages. Doesn't look like I missed anything. All right, I don't see any questions. So let us chug along. All right, let us chug along. Now, you are not the first person in the world trying to make a website. You're not the first person in the world trying to make a banner, trying to make these info boxes, trying to make a nav bar, trying to make all of these items. All right, lots of people have made them before you, and more people will make them after you. So much so that people have found that you can just make some libraries that do all of this BS for you. All right, do all this BS for you, so that way you can start off with just doing your color styling and etc., and you don't need to worry about all of this mobile compatibility and floating not working right or not doing your floats right and all of this headache inducing stuff that's here in the HTML and CSS world. All right, so there are a lot of popular libraries you can utilize. One of the biggest ones would be Bootstrap, right? Bootstrap. I absolutely love Bootstrap. Bootstrap will do a lot of stuff auto-magically for you. If my memory serves correct, Bootstrap is invented and maintained by the people at Twitter, I believe. If can I? Am I missing an about us? Oh, I want to fact check myself here. I guess we can just Google open collab. There we go. We are not a company. We are not owned or operated by Twitter. We are a team of distributed volunteers around the world. Blah, 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 blah. It has its roots with Twitter, right? So they use this and they keep it up to date. And it just recently had a bunch of updates release. It's super, super awesome. And it's very, very easy for you to start utilizing right away, right? You don't need to know JavaScript or do this NPM stuff. You can just link it right here through this code, right? This right here will automatically give you access to Bootstrap. If we copy to clipboard, let me go ahead and post this link into the chats for you guys. If we copy this, this should look very familiar. And you'll see when we add it to our link section here in our head, it should look very familiar. It's the same link tag that we used before, except before we were linking to our local CSS. This time we're linking to a CSS file that is owned and operated by Bootstrap, right? We can go to this link directly if we would like. And you'll see that this will load up CSS. I guess it's going to glitch out there. If we refresh our page here and go on inspect, or I guess if we go to network and then we refresh, There we go. Bootstrap min.css, and you can see there is a massive CSS file in here. By massive, I mean look at the scroll bar right here, right? If we scroll on it, it is absolutely massive. They've already written all the CSS you would potentially need, right? For you auto-magically, including stuff for dark mode, which everyone loves. Look at that. Theme dark mode, right? So how do we go about using this? Great question. You look at their docs, all right? As a dev, you're going to be spending a lot of time thinking and, sadly enough, reading, all right? I don't like reading, but we have to, right? It's part of our job, all right? Reading docs. So learning the base languages like Python and C or JavaScript or HTML, CSS is pretty relatively easy and straightforward, right? There's only a handful of things you need to learn. And then the complex part comes about how you go about stacking those items. The next level of complexity on top of that is learning libraries that are powerful and lots of people use, all right? Our certs are structured level 1, 2, 3, and 4, 4 being the highest, all right? The comp sci one is level 2. It's equivalent to your comp sci degree. You need to show you are very proficient in the basics, the base languages, the base concepts, right? The base. Level 3 shows that you are God tier mode on specific libraries and topics. For front-end development, that would be potentially front-end libraries like Bootstrap and Tailwind. So you would be tested on not just your ability to use these libraries, but to also, if it was front-end, being tested on making sure you have great UI and great UX, right? That you're really good at those items. If we go back to the Bootstrap site here and click on the docs, you can also click on examples here to see some starter examples. So yeah, this heroes, so these are called heroes, all right, which we kind of have, right? So these are a bunch of examples of heroes that you can do right out of the box using Bootstrap. Drop downs, list groups, buttons, jumbotrons. I guess jumbotron is the other term for it. Is what we're using a jumbotron? I don't even know. All right, there's a bunch of stuff here you can go look at, utilize if you want to use sidebars, modals, features, which is what we created, the features, right? They have all this stuff auto-made and ready to go. And the best part, mobile compatibility. Look at this. All right, this is what it looks like on desktop. If we shrink it, all right, smaller desktop, all right, iPad screen, or maybe this is the tablet view, and then there's your mobile view, all right? It just works, right? It just works, which is the awesome thing for you because you don't have to stress about all of this little minor BS stuff. If we go over to the docs, the only thing you need to stress about now when you learn these libraries is you need to now learn the basis of CSS and then learn these docs on top of it, because you still need to know CSS in order to use these properly. So if we look through here, components are pretty much our general items that we want to make. So buttons, right? If you want to make a button, you can see right here, they have a bunch of pre-made CSS classes for you. All right, for buttons, there is a general button class. You can't just use the general button class because if you do, it will give you pretty basic styling. You have to use it with a second class that improves upon it, aka you got these primary buttons, secondary, etc., etc. How difficult is this to use? Not difficult at all. If we go here to our site, let's say we want this paragraph to now be a button. It doesn't need to be a button tag. It could be just a paragraph tag. We just need to say class equals btn, right? btn. And let's see what that does for us, right? Let's go to our site and refresh, and you'll see this now. It doesn't look like a button at first, but if I hover over it, you'll see the mouse icon changes. Also, if I click and hold, you'll see we get a little button outline, right? A button outline. So button by default is a basically blank canvas button that they have that's pre-built with some basic functionality, all right, that you can use out of the gate. To build upon that, their API has these buttons built in. A button called primary, secondary, success, danger, warning, info, light, dark, and link. All right, and you can see their usage here. It's effectively a second class that you're going to need. So let's make this a primary button. So we need the button class, which gives us our base structure. And then we need the button primary, which will give us the coloring and any other special features for that button. So if we go here, and I just deleted that, now we have button and button primary. If we go back to our site and refresh, look at that. We have a nifty little button. When we hover over, it changes color and we can click on it, right? It doesn't do anything because, again, this is a paragraph. It's not linked to anything. There's no action attached to it. So nothing will happen when we click on it. But you can see a button has been manufactured, and it was relatively low effort for us. We didn't have to write any CSS ourselves, which is the super epic thing about these libraries. Now, if you want to change the colors of the primary, secondary, success, danger, etc. buttons, you need to write your own CSS, right? You need to write your own CSS, right? That's the second, final step in all of this is you can make, there's no shame in making a site with vanilla Bootstrap, right? Using all of the default everything of Bootstrap. You can do that. That is a-okay, all right? That is a-okay. Some devs might make fun of you because your site literally looks like the default Bootstrap because you are using the default Bootstrap and not adding any of your own custom stuff. But who cares? They can go screw themselves, all right? The point is, you have a site that's up, working, and now you are selling your product, making whatever money you're trying to make, and they are not. They are just making fun of. Who cares, all right? Who cares? Use it, make something with it, and move on with your product, all right? Improve upon it. As long as it works, and the site looks decent, it has mobile compatibility, hey, you're doing good. You're doing better than I probably am, all right? All right, any questions on that before we continue with our examples here in Bootstrap? I'm gonna wait a couple more seconds here for any questions. If you guys do have any questions, we're going to continue along. If you do have any questions, please post them in the chats, or if you're in the event voice channel, just ask at any time, all right? Let us chug along here. So we can recreate everything we have here using Bootstrap, right? Using Bootstrap. This takes some time for you to get used to these terminologies because they have, things called cards. What is a card? You won't understand that till you look at this. Maybe a card is what you want to use for our bottom part here. They also referred to these as something different than a card earlier, which I'm forgetting right now. Let's go to examples and look. It was features, right? Maybe features though are cards themselves. So that's the wrong one. If we right click, inspect, and look at it. So also the awesome thing about this is if you inspect, you can see here, row G4, PY5, row columns 1, row columns large 3. These are all Bootstrap CSS items that you can copy and paste into your code and it will automatically work, which is super, super awesome. These are all literally Bootstrap functionalities that you can use. So it's super easy for you to effectively copy and paste what you want. So they're literally calling these all features, all right? So maybe there's a section in here called features. I don't see anything called features. Let's do Control F, features. Nothing came up, feature singular, and doesn't really look like anything is coming up. So it's on you how you want to go about that. I would say it looks like they're using these card-based structures and then adding some extra stuff on it. But again, this is the extended part of your learning. The base language is relatively easy. Learning these libraries are extra nice because now you can be more lazy. You want a nav bar? Here you go. Here's all the code you need to get this nav bar right here up and running and working. All right. And they have plenty of examples here. Nav bar with the image, text, etc., etc., different configurations. You can copy and paste, see what they're doing. Now, for mobile compatibility, these guys smarter than me, right? Smarter than me. If you're just starting on this, hey, they're going to be smarter than you too on how to go about this potentially the best way possible. What I mean by that is their layout section, all right? Because before, we don't really have mobile compatibility. Things get a little cumbersome or confusing, all right? They've solved it all for you auto-magically. Vertical, what do you call it? Vertical alignment, horizontal alignment, columns. They've done it all automatically for you. So the layout section is really, really nice because you can learn about their layout system, how they go about doing it, and how you can use and take advantage of it the most possible. So they have these things called columns, which are smart little items that will automatically try to take up as much space as possible. And they are dynamic. So if we look here and shrink this down, you'll see that the columns will dynamically change in size. So they're not hard-coded in their size, and they will shrink down so they are mobile compatible. The only last nice feature would be if these columns auto go down on their own line. Here, is it this next one? Ordering, offsetting. There's lots of examples here. You would have to look through them. Trying to look for that exact example. But there's lots of examples here that you can go about utilizing. Specifically, the columns, container, and the grid system are some of the nicest things you can look at and try to, learn about what they utilize and how to use it best yourself. Effectively, they use a 12 wide grid system. So effectively, your site is cut up into, here we go, 12 column system. So effectively, your site is cut up into 12 columns vertically, all right? And you can specify how wide you want things based off that column system, all right? So that's what they utilize, and they have also these terminologies of extra small, small, medium, large, etc., which is kind of linked to these pixel values of how wide you want a site. Yeah, just mess around with it. All right, they do a lot of things really nicely for you. Let's see our site recreated using Bootstrap. So this index.html, I'm going to make a new one. Right? I'm going to call this index_bootstrap. So this is going to be our Bootstrap version of our site. So in here, in our URL bar, let's do _bootstrap, right? So this is the Bootstrap version of our site. Let's go ahead and remove our default styling here. Refresh. Now we have the Bootstrap version of our site. You'll notice that Bootstrap by default will set a custom font. Which is really, really nice and convenient, all right? You don't have to use this custom font. You can set your own, but for right now, we're just gonna keep it, all right? Because this is gonna be purely a vanilla Bootstrap site. So on top of that, we're going to remove in this file all of the classes that we made ourselves. So we're only using Bootstrap ones, all right? And again, the whole point of this example is to show how you can use something like Bootstrap and not really write a single line of CSS yourself and get some really powerful features. You can do it pretty much 10 times faster on making your site, and you get mobile support to a certain extent. There might be sometimes when you need to add a little extra, thing here and there. So the first thing we want to do is make our big, let me pull up the, here we go. Make our little hero here, or Jumbotron, or whatever verbiage they use, right? So let's look here. So if I were you, the first thing I would do is maybe take a look at their examples, right? Take a look at their examples and look at the heroes. And maybe the heroes aren't what you want. So maybe look at, did we pass the other one? The Jumbotrons, right? Take a look at them. See what is more applicable to potentially what you want. Let's go to the heroes here, because I think heroes might be good for what we want. None of the examples here have a background image set, so most likely we won't be cloning with a background image set, because again, we're trying to use just vanilla, unaltered, what is this, Bootstrap, right? So we're just not going to have a background image, it looks like. What we can do instead is maybe go with an icon here, this icon one. I don't really like the X here. Of course, you can always edit and change all of these. I don't know, let's do this one. Let's inspect, see what they got here. All right, remember, when you highlight over here, it will tell you, you know, which one is what, or what code is containing what. So this div contains all the logic for that whole area here. So we're devs, so what do devs like to do best? Steal. So we're gonna go ahead and steal this code. We're gonna right click on the div that contains all of this code. Right click, and then we're going to go to copy, and we're going to copy element. Copy element. Now we have copied all of this code, right? Now we've copied all of this code. So we go over to our site and our code right here. We got our main site, top banner. So let's put it in our top banner and see what happens, right? So we're gonna paste and put all this code in our top banner, refresh and see what happens. Look at that. We got a Jumbotron on our site. Looks pretty decent. Looks pretty decent. We didn't have to do too much work because it's all built in. Now there's a bunch of extra text here that we don't want. We're also missing our nav bar. So let's go about trying to figure that out. So right here at the end section was our center banner text. So let's replace our center banner text with all of this code, because our nav bar should naturally be above our Jumbotron here. So let's replace our text here. So you'll see the God mode disappear, and about us is now on top. So in here, we kind of like this, so we can make this text instead say God mode. And this is, again, if you want to experiment without changing your HTML, this is where doing inspect element really comes in handy, all right? Because if we go in here and we do inspect element, we can hover and see what sections cover what areas. So this P tag here covers this info section. We don't want this info section because we just want to say in big words, God mode. All right. So inside of the inspect element here, if we click on what we want to potentially delete, you can then press the delete key, or if you don't have a delete key, you can right click and then either hide the element or delete the element, right? There's options for both of them. That might be a little bit hard for you guys to see here, but they are there. I'm just going to press the delete key and look at that. It's gone. All right. The buttons, maybe you want to keep the buttons. Maybe you don't. If you don't, delete. There you go. So this is what it would look like right now if we change all this on our site. Looks a little bit weird. We have a lot of extra spacing on top, no extra spacing on the bottom. So we want to add some extra spacing on the bottom. But remember, our challenge is here, we want to stick to vanilla, their vanilla code only. So if we hover over this, we can see we have some invisible image here that is taking up a lot of space. That's weird. Why is this here? Let's just delete it. Now that is gone. Sweet. This kind of works for us. This kind of works for us, except maybe we want it to be more padding on top and on the bottom because it's kind of thin. We want it to take up a predominant amount of the page. So the first question we need to ask ourselves is, how are they even doing the padding right now? So let's investigate by simply hovering and looking at pretty colors. All right, that's the most lazy you can be. All right, and it's encouraged. It's encouraged. All right, just look at some pretty colors and see which one pops out to you for padding. Now, this is where it's important to remember the color coding of down here. The blue is your main text, green is padding, this weird tannish color is border, and then the orange is margin. So when we see the green here, they're doing padding here. But how are they doing their padding? I don't see anything here initially that maybe Beat is saying like padding is being done very obviously. So let's take a look at the classes here. Weird, P tac 5. We may not understand what that means. Let's look at the next one, text tac center. That's convenient for us to know, maybe for later usage. They have something called text center for centering text. BG, tac body, tac hereditary, whatever that word is. BG most likely stands for background. Body stands for something about a body, and this we don't know what it is. Maybe that's a color. And then we have rounded tac 3. Maybe we don't know what that is. So how we can investigate this even further, remember all the CSS is downloaded and viewable here on the side. So if we scroll up through this, we're going to see a lot of default CSS things here, something called root, something called body, which is the body of our the body tag of our HTML. If we keep scrolling up, there's this thing called container. Interesting. All right, let's go up further. Div. Oh wait. P5. We saw that before. P5 is right here. What does this P5 do? Interesting. P5 has something to do with padding. So padding, P. They have a bunch of pre-made padding tags built in for you. It is going to be P tac some number, right? And if we go to the docs here and we go and try to find padding, which I don't want to scroll through this, so we can look right here. Padding, margin and padding. Let's go and click on that. Look at that. Margin is the letter M. The letter P is padding. Very interesting. We can also dictate what side we want it to be, which we can say T for top, B for bottom, S for start, E for end. That's really weird why they do start and end. I don't know why they don't do left and right. I guess you can do left or right. So then they have some examples here. And it looks like the sizes range from 0 to 5 to auto. So 5 is the quote unquote largest you can have by default. So if we look here, we can see some examples. MT, this means margin top, tac 0. So we're applying 0 margin to the top. MS means the starting side. So that's going to be the left side. Tac 1. So this is a little bit of margin on the left side. A little bit of padding on the X side. What is the X side? Both the right and the left side. All right. P3 is going to be adding padding all around at a level 3, whatever that level 3 is. All right. So this is how you can go about diving in and potentially learning about it. So this P thing is what we want. Sadly, we just learned by default 5 is the largest. Now we could mess with this and see what auto does. So we can go ahead and just edit our CSS right here and say instead of 5, say auto, press enter. Maybe auto is not what we want because now this got even smaller. All right. So we can even do padding 1 to see what padding 1 looks like. Got a little bit bigger. So I guess we're going to be stuck with padding 5 for this demo. That's fine. Not the end of the world. It's just not going to be exactly how it looks like on our page unless we do some custom styling ourselves on top of this. So let's keep it at P5. Alrighty. So next we need to do the nav bar. Well, I guess we need to make this alteration on our page. So let's go into our page here. Let's get rid of these buttons, which are going to be in this div section here. Let's get rid of this paragraph here, which is that info paragraph. Let's get rid of this SVG, which is an image. That was weird right here. And then let's change this text to God mode. All right. Now, if we refresh our page, you'll see now it says God mode and we're looking good. Next, we need to do our nav bar. All right. Next, we need to do our nav bar. So let's go ahead and check out what examples they have for the nav bar. So if we go to examples here, we can see headers, right? Do they have anything called nav bars? Nope. So they're all going to be in the headers section. So let's go and click on that. And we have a bunch of default headers here. So I think what we'll do is probably copy. This one's kind of hard to see. They must have messed up a little bit on that one. Maybe we'll copy this top one. All right, this top one kind of looks nice. We just need an about link right here so we can delete everything else, including the logo. But, you know, this is pretty good of a base. So let's do the same thing, inspect, so we can go steal some code. All right, we want to hover over the exact item that contains everything. So it's going to be this container item here. We're going to right click, we're going to copy the element. Then we're going to go over to our beautiful code here and find our nav section. So nav bar. Here's our nav bar with our About Us tab. So this is our entire nav bar right now. We have a new nav bar. So let's post this new nav bar right above our old nav bar so we can do some conversion over. So it looks pretty nice, looks pretty clean, nicely tabbed. Let's see how it looks right now on our site, right? So let's go back to our site and refresh. Ooh, look at that. We have our new nav bar and it looks like it has nice mobile compatibility, right? Look at that. Things move down nicely. You know, they're doing all that nice little spacing when we get larger and smaller. Beautiful. We didn't have to write all that code ourselves. It's just giving it to us out of the box. So let's look at the code here a little bit. Again, we can just inspect element here and take a look ourselves. Now we know we want to kind of remove this simple header here. So let's remove that by clicking delete. This image here we want to remove. Even though it's invisible, we still want to remove it. So let's go ahead and click delete on that. This whole extra area right here, we don't necessarily want to delete. We kind of want to keep that. Let's see what happens when we do delete it. All right, all of this gets centered. So to undo, we can do Control Z, right? To undo that change. So we got to keep this guy. Maybe we'll change it because right now, if we look, it's a ahref, so it's a link. So we should probably change this instead of having it as a link. Let's change it to a div or a paragraph. So that way it's not a link. And when people hover over it, which I guess it doesn't do anything when we hover over it right now. So maybe we can leave it as a tag. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Next, we have this UL, which I guess we kind of forgot to talk about ULs and OLs. UL stands for unordered list. By default, it will be bullet point list that shows up visually. A OL is a ordered list. So it will be a list that is 1, 2, 3, etc., etc. And inside of a list, you can have list items, which are going to be LIs. All right. Now, we don't need all these list items. We just want this about one. So let's see what happens when we start deleting these. Nice. We can just delete them and have the about. Perfect. And then the last big thing for you is whether you want this bar at the bottom that's styled bar, and that would be, you have to look around to see which where that is. I'm guessing it's attached to the container here. If we look at the classes here, deflex, don't know what that is. Flex wrap, maybe we don't know what that is. Justified content center, maybe we don't know what that is. P, we just talked about that, so this must be for the padding. This must be for margin. Border bottom, this must be for that little border, that gray border right here. Maybe we don't want that, so let's go ahead and just delete it, see what it looks like. Much better. So this is maybe what we want. Now we could go about editing our code now to fit this, but also we just edit our code on here. So we could just right click, copy element, and copy all the code from our edited session here, replace it, There we go. Let's go ahead and get rid of all this extra spacing. Let's get rid of this spacing. Now this A tag here, we said we wanted to change from an A tag to maybe something like a div. Let's get rid of that href because we don't need that anymore, because we don't want this linking really to anything. Additionally, our about here, we want to make sure it's linking to our about page. So replace the pound sign. The pound sign by default, which I don't think we went over, will make it a clickable link that doesn't do anything, right? A clickable link that doesn't do anything. So let's make this now go to the about page. So there we go. Now it goes to the about page, and we can delete our old nav bar. We can delete our old nav bar. So if we go here and refresh, look at that. Our site is now coming along really nicely. Maybe we don't like all this extra padding here at the bottom. So we know there's the padding Y and the M. So padding Y is going to add 3 units of padding on the top and the bottom. Maybe we want that, maybe we don't. But this margin bottom, we maybe don't want first, because this is adding at the bottom of the nav bar 4 units. So let's try changing this to 0 units and see what it looks like. We refresh, looks like nothing has changed. So let's change this again by just deleting it completely and see what happens. This is doing absolutely nothing. So the last thing we can do is then mess with this PY. Looks like there's another margin bottom here. So let's actually delete that one and see if that helps with what we want to do. Nope, nothing here. So is there any other margin bottom here? Nope. So let's change this to 1 unit of padding. And that looks like it changed a little bit. So the next question is, why is there so much space between the About Us and God Mode? Is it on the God Mode section? Let's just look. It looks like it is on this container margin Y tag 5 right here. So let's find that here. Right on the God Mode section. This looks like a little too much, right, for our liking. So maybe we want this margin 5, but maybe not completely on the top and on the bottom. So we can change this so it's just margin 5 at the bottom, and then margin top maybe only has 2. So let's refresh and look. Oh, there we go. Looking a lot nicer. These are nicely close together now. And the last section we have is our bottom 3 items here. All right, our bottom 3 items. Again, I'm sorry, you guys, we're really speeding through this, right? We're really speeding through this because I don't want to spend too much extra time on CSS and stuff. I want us to get back to the APIs in JavaScript and showing how we can hook this up and then move forward. So I know we're at the 2-hour mark right now. I'm sorry. Let me quickly speed through these bottom pillar items. We'll call it good for today. Tomorrow is our chill Q&A. Tomorrow is chill Q&A. What is that? That is just nothing. We're not teaching anything new. We're just here on standby pretty much for you to ask any questions from the previous 78 days, right? Any questions, we will address them, go ahead and ask them. And it's pretty much a tutoring session, right? Nothing new. We're just here, and it lasts as long as you guys have questions. So if there are no questions, then it's going to end quite abruptly. Also remember, tomorrow we are doing the giveaway. So if you did enter for the week 11 prizes, tomorrow we will be polling who won, right? Tomorrow we will be polling who won. All right, so for our last section here with our pillars, let's quickly go through that. So we saw there is this thing called features. So let's go ahead and try to copy from this features section. So find one that's, this looks really nice. Find one that's most applicable to you. So let's say these ones right here are most applicable to us. Same thing, inspect. We're going to copy this whole section right here, right? Yeah, we'll just copy this one right here. Copy element. And now let's go into our code, and right above our existing section, let's paste this new one. Let's take a look at our site and look at that. It is in here. It's looking nice, right? It's looking nice. And you can see that it has some type of mobile compatibility, because as it gets smaller, it will eventually tile on top of each other. So we have mobile compatibility, mobile support, which is really, really nice, really, really convenient, right? Really nice, really convenient. So let's finish our conversion here. One thing that you might notice that we don't really like is that this is nicely, when we're at a big full screen like this, this kind of cuts off and it lines up nicely with the about here. And it's kind of in the center area, while this goes totally to the full screen, That may not be what we want. So there is a special class in here that you'll notice is a repeating theme for the div that contains this section. It's called the container div. And if we were to look at that, you'll see that the container div has a max width, so our site will only be ever 1140 pixels wide, and it has some magic in here for making it centered automatically for us. So that's really convenient. So let's go ahead and throw this code we just copied into a container div, so that way it is nicely centered for us and it lines up with the rest of our content really nicely and neatly. So let's go ahead and delete and then paste into this container, save, refresh, and look at that. Now those three sections are contained in that container section. Now it aligns up really nicely, it looks good, and it still has that nice mobile compatibility, which we really, really like. We didn't have to do anything. This is all being given us to free. We just need to be really good at copying, pasting, right? Really good at copying, pasting, and then go through the steps of looking through their classes and starting to learn about them, all right? Starting to learn about them. So we want to get replace this little blue icon here with our rootkit logo. Maybe remove the featured title because we don't really have a featured title, and change this text here to be our auto-generated text, and remove our call to action button. So if we inspect, we can do our edits through the inspect element again. So let's go to our call to action here, right click, all right, call to action. Let's go and delete that. That's our paragraph, so we'll keep that paragraph there for now. Let's inspect on this one and delete it. Inspect on this one, delete it. Our featured titles, we want to delete those. So inspect, delete, and these icons here, these are currently SVGs. It would be faster if we replace those SVGs with our rootkit logo, the image code. So let's keep this in its current state here. Let's go ahead and click on this top div. I guess we should do the container one. We'll go ahead and copy the element, go back here, replace all of our code for this section, paste, there we go. So this default text we can replace with our text here. So these are all going to be p tags, so we could copy the p tag here completely. It's on 3 lines, this one's on 1 line, so just do that. So now it's all copied over. Each section has the same p tag text, so we'll just copy all of that over. Also, these SVGs, which are the old images, we want to replace with our images. So let's go ahead and grab the image here, paste it here. Instead of width 350 pixels, let's set this to 100%. So it's going to be as wide as this column item is. So let's copy and paste this here, copy and paste this here. Let's see how this looks right now. So let's refresh and look at that. We're doing pretty good right now. We got this weird blue background. So let's look at the image here. There's nothing here that would set it blue. So let's look above. Featured icon, interesting. Text background primary. Maybe this is setting the color. Additionally, if you don't know, you can right click, inspect, and then look at the CSS that's attached and see, toggle these on and off. Looks like this is affecting it. What other items here might be affecting it? We know we have blue. Where do we see blue? All right, you see blue in the root here, but the root is a little too far. Body's a little too far. We gotta look at these items here. Row, div, there's this color here. This right here. text background primary is what's messing us up, right? Text background primary is what's messing us up. So if we go back to our code here, find the text background primary, right? We got 3 of them here that are automatically highlighted. We can do Control F, open up the the find and replace everything with nothing. So now all those have been removed. Control S, refresh, and look at that. These are now nicely showing up. Maybe we want some more padding because these are a little close to each other. We know how to do that, right? If we go to each one of our columns here, so here's one column right here, we can go ahead and say in here, P, I don't know, 2, P tag 2. And let's put that on every single one of these items to see what that looks like. And it oddly made it worse, right? Oddly made it worse. So let's go ahead and change this to P5. And Control S, refresh. That's a little too much. So maybe we want P3 instead. Again, this is all the process, trial and error. Unless you know exactly, I think we're back to where we started, whatever. We'll just keep it like that. We can delete our old stuff down here below. So let's go and delete this stuff. And there we go, we have done it. We have recreated our site using vanilla Bootstrap with just their classes alone. Just their classes alone. None of our own custom ones. And now our site is better, right? Better because now we have mobile compatibility. If someone views our site on a desktop, on a like a tablet device or on a mobile device, you'll see like it's always going to look good, right? It's always going to look good. It's always going to be correct. This is the powerful thing about using a framework. You can write less code. We didn't have to write a single line of CSS. We just needed to copy and paste a bunch, but also start learning their classes they've made, their custom classes they've made, and incorporating those correctly. And we right now are mostly just doing copying and pasting of the pre-made templates, but as you get more and more familiar with all these items, you can start creating these from scratch, right? You can start creating these from scratch without using their templates as your base item. Any questions on this, on what we just went over? I know that was pretty quick, pretty speedy. You guys in the supporter chat will be getting this code dropped afterwards so you can look it over. Again, this is all recorded and is going to be on the YouTube channel, so feel free to go back and read this over. I want to just get through this because the whole point is just showing off frameworks. All right, this was Bootstrap. Tailwind is another big framework that you can use. Tailwind, UI.com. Maybe it's not. Tailwind is another one you can use. Tailwind, look, for beginners, Bootstrap's going to be better. Tailwind is less hand-holdy. All right, less hand-holdy. It's more manual. I don't recommend it as a beginner. Bootstrap is going to be the best one for beginners. Use Bootstrap unless you find some other framework that you prefer over it. All right, I'm a big fan of Bootstrap and Tailwind, but those aren't the only ones out there. Main point, use a framework if possible. If you're going to do this front-end stuff, copy and paste code. It will look good, be mobile compatible, less work on your end, nicer looking stuff. You don't need to worry about the rules, spacing, padding, XYZ. It just kind of works. All right. So if there are no questions, tomorrow, chill Q&A. Monday, we're going to talk about JavaScript. All right. We're finally going to move on, talk about JavaScript, learn the basics of JavaScript over the next couple of days. And then we're going to incorporate our API that we made in Python into our website. So that way we can complete that full stack gap. And then we're going to spend the remaining of the time back in Python, learning a couple of advanced features, and then maybe doing some extra projects, answering your guys' questions, etc., etc. All right, it's going to be a little more chill, a little bit more fun. We're just going to be making stuff and having fun. Any questions? All right. If you do have any questions, remember, tomorrow is chill Q&A. So it's meant for your questions that you guys have. All right? All right, sweet. I will see you guys tomorrow on the next one.